Imagine this, training camp is just days away, but instead of optimism dominating the headlines, the Cleveland Browns front office finds itself at the center of harsh criticism and renewed fan frustration. The latest storm stems from a simple but profound question. How did the Browns go from finally finding stability at quarterback to facing one of the most uncertain QB situations in the AFC? Fans and analysts alike are asking whether the team's leadership has mismanaged the position that matters most. At the heart of this conversation is the decision to part ways with Baker Mayfield, the former #1 overall pick who, love him or hate him, led the Browns to their first playoff win in a generation back in 2020. Mayfield's fiery personality, connection to the city, and flashes of brilliance made him a polarizing figure, but he represented hope after years of quarterback chaos in Cleveland. When the Browns decided to move on from Mayfield and bet the franchise's future on Deshaun Watson, a player with undeniable talent but an avalanche of off-field baggage, it signaled an aggressive and controversial pivot. Fast forward to today, Mayfield is thriving elsewhere, putting up solid numbers, playing with poise, and most importantly, staying on the field. Meanwhile, the Watson experiment has yet to pay dividends. Injuries have sidelined him for significant stretches, and when he has played, his performances have been uneven at best. The guaranteed contract given to Watson, a record-setting deal worth over $230 million, now hangs over the organization like a heavy shadow. On top of this, the quarterback depth chart behind Watson reflects even more questionable choices. Joe Flacco was brought back after an emergency stretch where he stabilized the offense in late 2024, but he's in his 40s and not part of any long-term plan. Kenny Pickett, acquired in a surprising offseason trade, struggled in Pittsburgh and has yet to show that he can be a reliable backup or bridge option. Dylan Gabriel, a third-round rookie, is talented but raw. And Shedeur Sanders, once projected as a top 5 draft pick, fell to the 5th round and is already rumored to be slipping to 4th on the depth chart before camp even opens. This sequence of moves has left Browns fans questioning not just the Watson gamble, but the overall vision of the front office. The criticism goes beyond simple results. It's about process and foresight. Why did Cleveland take such a risky path when they had, at least by Brown standards, relative stability at the position? Why have they failed to build a more coherent quarterback room behind Watson? The backlash is growing online, where Browns Twitter and fan forums are filled with comparisons between Mayfield's success and Watson's struggles. Many fans argue that while Mayfield was not perfect, he embodied the fight and passion that Browns football is supposed to represent, whereas Watson has yet to win the fan base over either on or off the field. Even national analysts are starting to weigh in. Albert Breer and other NFL insiders have noted that Cleveland may soon face a tough reality. Watson's contract limits their flexibility, their quarterback depth lacks a clear plan for the future, and they're entering a season where a slow start could put everyone in the building under pressure, from the coaching staff to the general manager's office. As training camp opens, the Browns find themselves at a crossroads, not just on the field, but in the eyes of their fan base. The quarterback decisions made over the past 2 years, once seen as bold, now look shaky. The front office, once praised for its aggressiveness, is now being questioned for its judgment.
The Cleveland Browns quarterback room today is a complicated puzzle, and the technical breakdown explains why the front office is under such intense scrutiny right now. When you examine the depth chart and the decisions that led to it, a pattern emerges: aggressive moves lacking consistency in execution. First, let's look at Deshaun Watson. When the Browns traded for Watson in 2022, they did not just acquire a talented but controversial quarterback. They handed him a fully guaranteed contract worth $230 million, a move unprecedented in NFL history. This decision tied the franchise's fate to a player who had not played football for more than a year and who arrived with significant off-field issues. Technically, Watson's skill set was never in question. He is mobile, accurate when on his game, and capable of making all the throws. But his return to form has not happened. His footwork under pressure has been inconsistent. His decision-making has not matched his earlier days in Houston. The injuries, combined with the rust, have left Watson looking like a shadow of the quarterback Cleveland thought it was getting. Behind Watson is Joe Flacco. Flacco came to the Browns last year as a desperation move after injuries wrecked the QB room. And to his credit, he performed admirably, helping the team secure a playoff berth. But Flacco is 40 years old. His mobility is severely limited, and while his experience provides value, he is not a long-term solution or even a reliable bridge if Watson misses time this season. His role is clear: veteran insurance, but relying on him reflects a lack of planning for the future. Then there is Kenny Pickett. The Browns acquired Pickett in an offseason trade with Pittsburgh, a move that caught many by surprise. Pickett struggled in 2 seasons with the Steelers, failing to develop into the franchise quarterback they had hoped for. His technical flaws were evident: inconsistent footwork, struggles reading defenses post-snap, and erratic deep ball accuracy. Bringing him to Cleveland raised eyebrows because it seemed more like a low-risk flyer than a real solution at backup quarterback. Dillon Gabriel, selected in the 3rd round of this year's draft, is an attempt to develop a younger option. Gabriel has an intriguing skill set: good mobility, quick release, and creativity in extending plays, but he is raw. His college tape showed that he could struggle against complex defensive schemes and needed time to refine his mechanics. Expecting him to contribute early would be optimistic at best. Finally, there is Shedeur Sanders. Once projected as a top 5 pick, Sanders fell to the 5th round and is already rumored to be falling out of favor, reportedly sitting 4th on the current depth chart heading into training camp. Technically, Sanders has a solid arm and good instincts, but lacks polish in footwork and has struggled with consistency against tight coverage. His draft slide reflected real concerns from evaluators, and the Browns coaching staff clearly sees him as a long-term project rather than an immediate contributor. This collection of quarterbacks paints a picture of a front office scrambling to cover for past mistakes without a clear succession plan. The Watson gamble is not paying off. The backups are either too old, too flawed, or too raw to inspire confidence. The fan reaction reflects this reality. Browns fans are not just expressing frustration, they're questioning the competence of the leadership. On social media and talk radio, comparisons between Baker Mayfield's success elsewhere and Watson's uneven tenure dominate discussions. Fans feel that Baker was shown the door too quickly and that the aggressive pivot to Watson was reckless. There is a growing sense that the front office has backed themselves into a corner, with little room to maneuver if Watson continues to struggle or suffers another injury. At the same time, some fans are holding out hope that one of the young cornerbacks, perhaps Gabriel or even Sanders, can develop into a viable option down the line. But most recognize that this is far from guaranteed, and that the Browns' quarterback situation entering the 2025 season feels unstable despite all the resources poured into it. In short, the technical breakdown of the Browns' quarterback room reveals a lack of cohesion and planning, and the fans see it clearly. This is not just a roster issue, it's a leadership issue. The front office is under fire because the quarterback decisions they have made over the past 3 years have not produced a clear path forward, and the team's fortunes in 2025 will depend heavily on whether anyone in that room can rise above the uncertainty.
At Dawg Pound Daily, we understand the frustration Browns fans are feeling right now, and we believe that frustration is justified. The quarterback decisions made by the front office over the last few years were bold, aggressive, and high stakes, but so far they have not paid off. In fact, they have left the team in a precarious position as the 2025 season approaches, and that demands accountability. The Browns' leadership chose to move on from Baker Mayfield at a time when he was healthy, experienced, and had already proven he could win in Cleveland. He wasn't perfect, but he brought stability and competitiveness to a franchise that had lacked both for decades. Instead, the front office gambled everything on Deshaun Watson, a player whose immense talent was overshadowed by off-field issues and a long layoff from the game. The record-breaking, fully guaranteed contract they gave Watson tied the team's future to a single player more than any other franchise in the NFL. Now, with Watson struggling to stay healthy and perform consistently, the flaws in that gamble are on full display. Even worse, the depth behind Watson does not inspire confidence. Joe Flacco is a respected veteran, but at 40 years old, he cannot realistically be the future,
or even a reliable midseason replacement over a full year. Kenny Pickett's struggles in Pittsburgh suggest that he is unlikely to suddenly develop into a reliable option in Cleveland. Dillon Gabriel is raw, talented, but very much a project. Shedeur Sanders, once a top prospect, is reportedly slipping down the depth chart before camp even opens. This is not a quarterback room built on clear succession planning. It is a patchwork of short-term fixes and uncertain long-term bets. From our perspective, this isn't just about individual players, it's about leadership philosophy. The Browns front office showed that they were willing to take risks, but their process deserves scrutiny. The decision to move on from Mayfield and invest so heavily in Watson was made with the expectation that Watson would be elite from the moment he stepped on the field. That hasn't happened. And without a stable plan behind him, the Browns now face the real possibility that a single injury or continued underperformance could derail their entire season before it even starts. At the same time, we think it's important for Browns fans to recognize that there is still time. Barely. Training camp is about to begin, and it will provide clarity. Maybe Watson stays healthy and finds his rhythm. Maybe one of the young quarterbacks, Gabriel or Sanders, makes a leap and gives the team a reason to believe in a developmental path. But these are maybes, and fans are right to demand more than hope at this point. They deserve a front office that learns from its mistakes and builds a roster with depth, balance, and foresight. That's why this conversation matters right now. The 2025 season is not just another year, it's a critical moment for this franchise. The Browns have a talented roster at key positions, the defense is elite, the offensive line is solid, the receiving core has upside. But none of that will matter if the quarterback situation is unstable again. The window for this team to compete is open, but it won't stay open forever. That's why these questions about the front office's decisions and the current state of the quarterback room are so pressing. So here's our call to action for the Dawg Pound. We want to hear your thoughts. Do you think the front office made the right call moving on from Baker Mayfield and going all in on Deshaun Watson? How confident are you in the depth behind Watson? Which quarterback do you think should be QB2 this year? And how much pressure do you think the front office should feel heading into this critical season? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every comment because this is your team, your community, and your voice matters here. If you appreciated this deep dive and want more content like this as we head into training camp, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll be breaking down every move, every roster battle, and every key storyline as the Browns prepare for what could be one of the most defining seasons in franchise history. This is Dawg Pound Daily, where Browns fans stay informed, stay passionate, and stay ready.